Welcome to the show, everyone. I have some great news. Codeseven is back. They have a new song and video called Hold Tight, which is available now, and a new album called Go Let It In, available December 1st. Join with me today is Codeseven's vocalist, Jeff Jenkins. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Very good. Very good to be here.
Hell yeah, man. I'm super stoked. I mean, when I found out that new single was out, I was like, holy shit, Codeseven was back. Me and all my friends, dude, like there's this cool vibe. I noticed even in the comment section on your new video, like there's some hype behind this, man. And
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of exciting stuff going on right now with the new song and album coming out, but I didn't know if it was cool if we kind of just went back and started from the very beginning. Maybe
Sure.
just talk about a little bit about, how you guys met and how Codeseven was formed.
Well, there are three brothers in the band. The three brothers grew up jamming together. Matt is the youngest, and then John and James are twins, and they're a little older. And they, in high school started jamming with some friends, and ended up jamming with a guy named Eric. And Eric is, just about the same age. He's just in between the ages of Matt and John and James. They all graduated in succession. John and James graduated first. But I graduated the same year as John and James did. I just went to a different school, and I worked in a record store, and some friends came in with some coworkers of mine, and it turned out to be these guys that were looking for a singer in a band. And I was playing guitar in like an industrial band at the time. And it was lucky enough, bless his heart, the drummer is still one of my very close friends, a guy named Mike. He called me up one day and he was like, look, man, we think that you're better as a singer than you are a guitar player. And I was like, I'll take it. So
sometimes that's what you need, right? From a friend,
yeah.
That's what you need sometimes.
Yeah. But we formed the band originally with a fellow named Craig, and then a fellow named David Owen joined the band shortly thereafter, after we parted ways with this guy named Craig. And we put out the first 3 albums together, and then parted ways with Dave in early 2000s, I think. And subsequently just have been a 5-piece since then. So but yeah, we broke up and got back together, blah blah blah, this whole thing. The lead up to what Codeseven was when we formed was just basically I was really into things that weren't especially popular with them. They were into things that weren't especially popular with me, and we kind of pooled our resources and just started writing music that we wanted to hear, and it's great because they're my very best friends. We never, I think people think that we broke up. We never really broke up. We just, I lived in a different city, and they had different bands that they were incarnated in the process. And so was I, and I really got into circuit bending and, spicing up electronics and things like that. And, so yeah, we had been hanging out. As a matter of fact, I've worked for I worked for all 3 of them at their own businesses in the past like 15 years. So yeah, it's really cool. It's fun to think that we got a deal where we could get back together from Equal Vision, and it was just so swell that they supported the idea of us. After 15 years of just hanging out with each other, rather than just being at, all these social gatherings together, why aren't we actually making music still? Like we took a break from touring and then just never came out with another album. So
yeah, because I remember when you guys got back together in 2010 and you guys went on that tour, and I think people were kind of like, oh, sick, a new Codeseven album is going to come out soon again. And then there was kind of another hiatus, and then now people are actually, oh, sweet, there's an actual album coming out. Hell yeah. So I think people are pretty stoked about that.
Yeah. I'm hoping that people enjoy it. Like I said, it's really fun to make music with these, you know, family members of mine, literal
Yeah.
family members. So
That's really cool and important because I think one of
yeah,
the hardest band things to do while you're in a band is just keeping those relationships together. And there's so many just great bands that break up. So it's kind of cool to hear that you guys never did really break up. It was just kind of just different hiatuses that you guys took. But one of my questions is, how did you guys actually come up with the band name Codeseven?
that was Matt. That was the drummer. Have absolutely no clue where he got it from, but feel free to make up any other rumors or whatever it might mean. Somebody said it was mentioned to the movie Lethal Weapon. There was a boat in the movie Lethal Weapon that was called the Codeseven. So I'm gonna go with that story.
Somewhere online, I read that you guys got it from a Snoop Dogg song. So that's what I was trying to verify if that was actually true.
I'll take it. I think it actually means cops are on a break or something like that. Probably is what it means. So that's an actual police code. You'll have to look it up. I can't quote. Who knows?
Yeah, so back to the early days when you guys first formed and you guys were a little bit heavier. And what was it like writing with a second vocalist? I always imagine was there any like egos ever involved, like who sings on what part, or how
No.
like what is the writing process like writing with another vocalist?
Luckily I had Dave. Dave's a great wordsmith and Dave's an amazing musician. You know, like he at the time was piecing together lyric ideas that I could have never, you know, formulated. He comes from a musical background. He plays saxophone, and you know, I think a lot of the way that we were writing things, like lyrically, kind of like trying to get them just in a almost like a saxophone run of a line. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you know, sing a little bit, take a breath, sing a little bit. So we both kind of knew that that's how we wanted to do it. I've always been a phonetic singer. I've never really felt like, and at least until the most recent album that we're about to release, I've never felt like doing things poetically or lyrically or anything. But this time around, I actually had something to say with a new album.
Yeah,
But back then, I think I was just really. I treated it a lot like, you know, forgive the reference, but like bebop jazz, you know, like write it once, learn how you've written it, and then there's your song. So if you can work with somebody like that, like what's good for the good of the song is always going to, you know, you're never going to be led astray by your own feelings, and you're never going to let somebody, you know, you don't have the opportunity to just say, okay, now they're written. If you're not writing it with somebody else, you're losing so many opportunities, you know? All of the album that we're about to release, the vocals were done by Matt and myself. So I'm still having them give me great lyrics and things like that. So, you know, it's having a second party for me is just crucial, because if I don't write with someone else, I feel like I've got too much of my stank on it or something, and that rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, totally. I actually wanted to talk to you about the writing process a little bit, if that's cool. When you guys are writing new songs, do you like to wait until the band has the song completely done to put the vocals over it, or are you kind of writing the vocals as they're putting it together and assembling it, or?
Yeah, we fought so hardcore on this album as brothers, more than any other 5 people you've ever seen argue. But it was important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always great art comes from that. Always.
The principle behind having their opinions on this was absolutely crucial. So I wouldn't have written it any other way. I think it's, like I said, if it's finished and a song comes to me, they're going to get on me like, why haven't you recorded vocals for this yet? When, you know, in reality, I needed to put more of my stank on it. You know what I mean? And that doesn't rub me the wrong way. They brought me music. I brought them music. Eric brought them music. They brought Eric music. And Matt was luckily able to, you know, tie things together in an amazing way where we could write vocals kind of, okay, now we've written this vocal part. You see where we went up at the end? let's try to build on that and write another piece of music on top of that. So, you know, it might seem a little over the top with how I'm explaining it. You
No,
know,
not at all. It sounds like to me you guys are just self-producing yourselves, right?
at the end of the day, you're
Yeah.
just singing your heart out. You know what I mean? That's what you got to do. You know, is just sing your heart out. Whether you know, it's important for musicians to, you know, we got into arguments about this album. Like, hey, do you want the vocals to be the king of the album? And by that I mean like a great vocal band that you can think of, or a great band that writes just nothing but hooks, or do you want to be a little bit more relaxed with it? And you know, I thought, what's the point of having somebody else write a song when we can all just write it together? You know, like so a lot of the songs had titles for the longest time, like John number 5, or
Yeah.
James number 2, Matt idea 3. And the truth of the matter is, Matt and I named a couple of the songs. We had an ongoing joke. We were, you know, basically in the pre-record or pre-rehearsing recording phase, and we needed actual titles for songs rather than just, you know, James idea
Like,
4.
yeah.
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 And so Matt and I started naming them secretly, Tom Hanks movies. And you know, one of the songs in the album is called Mazes and Monsters, and another song in the album is called Punchline. And they ended up sticking. Those are actual
Oh,
songs.
nice.
But yeah, like piecing these songs together and making them come to life, it was very important, like, you know, like to not wait until the song is all the way written.
Yeah.
To answer your question, to make it so that you don't feel like you've pieced together something haphazardly. Everything will come in the right time, and it did for this album. You know, for our compositions, you know, right up to the very last minute we were writing when we were, you know, in the process of recording it. So the song is a living thing, so you got to keep it going. You know, like hopefully when we, you know, get a chance for people to hear this performed live, it will be something.
Oh, yeah.
It builds on that, you know.
Oh,
I feel
fuck
like I'm
yeah.
rambling here, Keith. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally good though, dude. This is fucking awesome. I appreciate it. When you guys are writing songs, do you guys get together in a jam room and you're actually together in a room writing these, or is it this? There's kind of like this new trend where bands are kind of like sending riffs over the internet and ideas through the web.
We did
Or do you
that.
guys do it like that?
We did that.
Yeah.
Rather than having the opportunity to do this, because, you know, it wasn't a last minute thing. It was just like until we had any clue that Equal Vision was on board with possibly, you know, something as cool as putting out another Codeseven album.
Mhm.
We were totally like, oh, we don't have time to rehearse this. We don't have time to practice this. And it turned out well, because I think we all learned, rather than being in an insular environment, just the 5 of us writing together, we all learned that it has to be that way. You have to have all 5 of us in the room to get these,
To get
you
the
know.
Codeseven sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we transferred files by the, you know, by the state of the art function that we didn't use to have that. We had to like literally
Yeah,
set
for sure.
up some kind of recording device. I mean, and I'd totally do it all again, just exactly the way we did it. But this time I'm so happy that technology has come a long way in the past 10 or 15 years. Live performance technology, recording technology has just exponentially blown up, and it's so easy to do wonderful things with electronic music now. So,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
that's fun to be able to share those, you know, those ideas. But we ripened them and allowed them to something to be sacrificed for the good of another song here, or, you know, eliminate a chorus there because it, you know, seemed like it runs too long, something like that. And we kind of whittled it down to the the album that we have. So
when you guys were writing back in the early days, when you guys were jamming in the same room together, did the guys, would they have like full songs that they would present to the band, or was it kind of like, were the songs maybe written out of jam sessions more, or maybe just a riff, you know?
riffs were very
Yeah.
riffs were very big. I've always loved the idea that, you know, Eric and James have completely different personas with their guitar playing.
Mhm.
And a lot of the stuff that Eric would come up with would totally be, you know, built on by that ethereal thing that James is doing on the guitar. Maybe something on one of the, you know, on the high end of the fretboard
Mhm.
where Eric and, you know, at the same time, Eric's chops and articulation are kind of like offset by James's, you know, ambient notes really don't have a beginning or end kind of thing. So, you know, and
Their
the
dynamic
work,
as guitar players is awesome, man. Like,
yeah,
I love it. I'm a guitar player myself, and like I love their, not just their riffs, but like their guitar tone, like how one of them will play like a lower riff, the other one's doing leads. You know, it's just
yeah,
I love it, dude. It's great.
yeah. And, you know, the worst, I'll tell you who has it worse of any other member of Codeseven is John, because he has to put up with my particulars about how important the bass guitar is to me. It's the first instrument that I
Well,
ever played. You know, it's like it's my instrument. Bass is my. So it's funny, you know, like throughout the process, we've all kind of shifted. Like John will come up with the cool drum beat, Matt will come up with the bass line, you know. So each of us is kind of like sort of writing for the other person, but it's come a long way, because like we used to not be able to do that with just the 5 of us in the basement. You know
mhm.
what I mean? Like, so
Well, don't get me wrong, the bass is bad as fuck too. It fills out the guitars like crazy.
yeah,
The bass lines are great
things were
too.
written a
Yeah.
lot. Things were written a lot faster than they were this time around. You know, but that's cool. I
So,
mean, I wouldn't sacrifice that that patience of having this, because like, yeah, it took us a long time, but I think that we got the album that we wanted out of it. So
definitely. Back in the day, I used to play in a metal band with, and two of the members were brothers. I was just curious, like, what are the pros and cons of being in a band with siblings?
um well, you're also instantly one of if you've got more than 2 siblings like we do. We have the total of 3 siblings,
Three,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when we have that in a dynamic, you instantly either adopt and become one of their parents' children also, and become their
Yeah,
brothers,
yeah.
or you stick out like a sore thumb. And, you know, they hate my
So you
guts,
just
but at the
became
end of the day, you know, James was my best man at my wedding. Um, like I said, Matt, the drummer from the band, he's currently my landlord. So, and
nice.
you know, you're looking at people who let me sleep on their couches for decades. You know what I mean? Like truly, they've been there for me. So, I can't thank them enough. I feel like one of the brothers. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's cool. Like they just took you in
and
as like one of their own.
Eric absolutely does too. So,
Yeah. Back when you guys were transitioning into the rescue and David Owen left, were you at all nervous, um, knowing that you were going to take on the vocals 100%, or were you just like stoked, or both? Maybe both.
yeah, I was. Somebody will tell you that I don't like hamming it up, but the truth is, yeah, I was stoked. Like, um, at the same time, I didn't really just want to be a vocalist. I kind of wanted to, you know, I want to make compositions for the band also. So the nerves were kind of offset about me learning a lot about music in the process. I didn't go to school for music, and um, it was just you know, it was an incredible way for me to get things off of my chest, because, you know, I was
Mhm.
angry 20 something at the time. So, but yeah, it was fun because like I knew nobody else was going to be like, you know, oh, they sold out because you know, the people who had been listening to us, I think they always kind of like could have seen that we were heading in that direction. You know, Kurt Ballou, who recorded the Division of Labor album, he could totally see that we were heading in that direction when we were in the process of recording that album. And, you know, we just, I think
I wanted to talk about that transition a little bit, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
I read online that you guys took a year off around 2000. I think it was after Division of Labor.
Yeah.
I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but did that give you time to kind of like reevaluate you guys as a band and maybe the direction and style you want to go in? Is there things that you learned during that time off?
Technology came along and helped us out again. Our biggest proponent at the time, we were getting into MIDI electronics and MIDI controllable devices for the guitar. So it was a fun experience for us to learn how to use electronic music's spectrum of sounds with Codeseven's already existing sounds. And that was, you know, that was probably it would probably have taken us an entire year to do that. At the time, I know I was like crashing on their couch and writing patches for James, and you know, like James immediately starts playing things that just sound like really, really otherworldly. You know, like all the things I had grown up with were starting to make sense as far as like, you know, when I was brought up in a sort of musical family. My mom really got me into Motown and stuff when I was a kid, and you know, her family members are musicians, and I immediately knew that this was, you know, that we were going in the right direction, because we actually sounded like we were writing melodies rather than writing riffs and then adding melodies. So and that kind of connection between writing melodies for music and writing melodies for vocal, that can be a really cool thing. You know what I mean? Like, and we looked up with the sound that we were going for actually coming across, because we recorded that with a guy named Alex Newport, and it was recorded here in town, you know, maybe about 20 minutes away from here where I'm at right now. And it turned out cool because we were on a deadline. We'd written all this stuff and we just went in there and we hammered it out. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, I think we got kind of like, oh, they've changed their sound. They don't sound as heavy as they did. What's that about? So I don't.
Were you guys nervous about that at all when you guys made that style change, about how the audience would perceive that, or did you just not care?
I didn't have time to really think about it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can see where some people who were attached to our other stuff would wonder, you know, why would I go to see a show if they're not going to play that stuff? You know what I mean? And that's kind of sad, because they don't realize you've only got 30 minutes to perform something. And, you know,
I feel like the other thing is too, though, is that at that time period, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, people that were into hardcore and metal music, like if it wasn't metal, it wasn't cool. Does that make sense? Like
it does, yeah.
Like people nowadays seem like they're more open to more styles of music, but like back then it was like, you know what I mean? Like if it's not metal, it's not cool. So, but to be honest with you, I became a fan of you guys from the Rescue. I saw you guys open for Dredge and Dead. It was one of the baddest shows I've ever seen, by the way. At the Bash on Ash was the Dead Sea, Dredge, and you guys fucking blew me away. And then I ended up going back and falling in love with the heavy stuff too. I was like, holy shit, they had a wholly different style before all of this. You know, it's cool to see the transition, but I always had wondered at that time, like how the fans reacted to that.
You know, I wouldn't be lying if I didn't say that we had people who are like, they would be a part of a city's crew, and they would come and, you know, just completely full of whatever kind of testosterone, and turn their back to us on stage and just kind of like face away from us.
What the hell?
I didn't care about it. Nobody really thought about it at the time as being malicious. I just thought that, you know, they paid for the wrong show, apparently, you know, with our band. I've got no remorse for that. They bought the wrong ticket if they thought they were, you know, to beat each other's faces in, you know. And I've got no problem with getting physical at shows. I think another big turn for me around the time in between Division of Labor and The Rescue came out, I was just like, man, in jazz clubs, they just sit there and they just watch, you know? And I was just like, why can't they do that at hardcore shows too, you know? And then,
Yeah.
you know, right after that, just flood of heavy music that was also, you know, had a different vibe, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I knew music was gonna explode when the first time that I ever heard, the, soul the Sepultura Roots album,
Oh my
and
God.
yeah, and
It was
we
Chaos
had
AD for me and Roots. Yeah.
yeah, but I knew that the whole world was open to us because I think we'd been lumped in with bands like Korn and Deftones when we first started for some reason. But yeah, I knew that the tide was changing for music when world music actually started to get incorporated with it. And it was around that time that I discovered artists like Peter Gabriel, Talk Talk, you know, really big fan of Jeff Buckley, you know, huge Neil Young fan. And all of those artists were not in my my heavy metal repertoire. You know what I mean? Like I felt like, yeah, I've really been into metal for a long time. My very first favorite band was Black Sabbath when I was 6 years old, because there was a wrestling duo called the Road Warriors, and they used to come out to the song Iron Man. And I just remember being about 6 years old and hearing that song.
When he first bends that first note.
And
That song's sick.
that was my, you know, since then they've been my all-time favorites. They've been my number one band. And, you know, like I guess where I was going with all that is like, you know, like being, you know, being able to play music that doesn't just make people violent, but also because, you know, music for me, I feel like if I went to see Refused performing Shape of Punk to Come, you know, a month or so after it came out, I would get the most amazing punk rock explosive show of my life. You know what I mean? And like that to me, I just feel like that's one of those things where if they can perform it and they can perform that wide range of music, why can't we do the same thing or something like it? You know what I mean? Bands like Dillinger Escape Plan were pushing the prog rock envelope, and you know, all these things are changing with music around, you know, everywhere from like 99 to you know, 2003, 2004. There were so many amazing shifts in music at that time.
That was one of the greatest times in music history.
Yeah.
When you guys started touring for the Rescue, did you guys stop playing all the heavy stuff entirely and just
No, we continue to play 2 or 3 songs at each set or at each show from Division of Labor. They were just sans a second vocal.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, the Rescue, man, that's like an all-time greatest album in my opinion, and particularly the sounds of Cyan and Magenta. There's something about that song, man, especially like the breakdown. I just love that song so fucking much.
Cool, man. Thank you. That's rad.
I did have to ask you though about if it's cool, the lyrics of that song, because they seem to be one of the topics on this show we talk about every Thursday night is UFOs for about an hour. And I noticed the lyrics. I don't know if it's like someone that you knew had an abduction or a UFO encounter, or are you able to break that down a little bit? Or
Yeah, it was a point at which I say it was a great shift for music. That same time period was a point at which I had been seeing UFOs for about 5 or 6 years at that point, and I was like, this is weird that they're not, you know, like that folks aren't talking about it more. So the strangest thing is that, you know, you see something with somebody and then you see something with a large group of people, and then, you know, moments later it's back to the most mundane conversation, and it's often shifted as an anecdote or like a piece of your memory where you're like, oh yeah, that was weird. So my problem was I kept running into situations where I would find myself just like alienating myself at parties and at places where we'd be by asking about things that people didn't really want to have invade their reality, you know? And that's always been sort of a theme for me lyrically. If I'm going to write about something, I'm going to write about something that's just out of reach, you know? I've always been fascinated with, you know, the unexplained, and for me to actually have experiences with something that I can't explain, starting in like 95, 96, you know, I'm just glad I was looking up at the right time. I feel lucky to have seen as many UFOs, and I think anybody could be as apt to see them as I am. But at the same time, you know, my neck's not so good. It's hard to look up a lot. And I've done a lot of head banging, so having my neck looking for UFOs.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I always attributed that rash of sightings in my life. Any one of the band members
really quick,
can.
how many did you see in that time period?
I don't know. Like in reality, probably about 20 hardcore cases. That
Holy shit!
I can honestly say, yeah.
You're in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. The first was with a friend of mine. Like, for some silly reason. Okay, I'll start by saying, yes, at this point, I'd done psychotropic drugs and hallucinogens. So my story is immediately invalidated by any peer-reviewed board who are saying whether or not my story happened or didn't happen. But the craziest thing happened maybe the second or third time that I had seen one. And the story was, my best friend lived with his mom and his little sister, who was like, you know, probably about 12 years old at the time. I'm 18. My buddy Cliff, he was like 17 at the time. And he lived with his mom and his sister. And Cliff and I used to always go to shows. We used to always smoke reefer together and, you know, just get into have the coolest misadventures. But it started when he was like, I knew he was legit, telling me the truth. He's like, I mean, the first that I ever encountered of any of this was when Cliff let me read this thing that he had written. And, you know, if Cliff writes something down, you kind of want to pay attention to it because, you know, like, just like me, we were both like sort of potheads. So this description was this blue light that came up over the trees and a red light that kept sort of pinging off of the blue light and moving and stopping, and things that were shooting out from the bottom. So like when I read that, I was like really weirded out. So a couple of days later, whatever reason, we go to a local music venue to see Suicidal Tendencies and Incubus.
Oh shit!
And
hell yeah!
Incubus was opening up for Suicidal Tendencies.
The Science days.
Yeah, a little earlier than that is when he was doing the Rain.
Among Us.
Yeah. During Incubus's set, Cliff and I randomly just look at each other. We hadn't really gotten, you know, too stoned or anything, but we just paid money to get in the door. We watched a little bit of their band, and we both just look at each other kind of weirdly. And I've talked to him about it since. It's like, why did we leave the club? And so we left the club and we go and we park in front of his house. And almost immediately we're sitting there in the driveway. And I'm looking at the horizon and I see something that looks like just out of the ordinary bright amber color coming toward us. And he immediately recognizes it and says, "That's what I saw the other night."
Whoa.
And from the original place to this place where we had this experience is about 1.5 miles. So he was at another friend's house when he saw it the night before, the blue and red things or whatever. So, okay. So it was weird. Like, you know, like I'm seeing my first UFO and I'm not thinking, you know, I'm thinking nothing else except everything that I've thought every other time, which is, God, this is so lucky. Why am I being exposed to this? But, you know, in hindsight, it's really cool because, like, I know whatever it was potentially was about the size of a beach ball, and It was glowing amber, and it came down over the trees, and the luminescence from it, I knew how close it was to the trees because the luminescence was hitting on the trees. And just like he said, it didn't, I didn't see the colors blue or red or anything. But just like he said, it had stuff spitting off of it, off of the bottom. And, you know, eventually we're sitting there watching this, and he's just like, I'm going to go get my mom. And he runs up the door to his front door, and his mom and his younger sister are in the living room, and she opens up the door as she hears him running up the steps, and she stops there, and I was right behind him, and I just saw her looking out, and I heard her go, "Mama, those things are back." And that was when I was like, yeah, this is real. My story, having been invalidated by the fact that I'd done hallucinogens and psychotropic drugs, this child has never touched a drug in her life. And she's apparently told her mom about these things before we even experienced them. So, but yeah, it was really creepy. And I've talked to all those people since, and it's really cool because they got, you know, they got used to seeing these things, and they're still around. They're still just doing just fine. There's nothing that, no one was abducted. No one explains anything, at least to me, like that. So when we, you know, when we started touring, we saw a lot of other stuff on the road, and that was kind of a bizarre experience at first with the band. We saw one in California that was incredible. But we saw a couple in California that were incredible.
And you're seeing them pretty close. Like you said, that one was the size of a beach ball.
Yeah, I don't know any other way to describe, because like I like to get, you know, like I like to get my head into the actual triangulation of where I'm witnessing something versus where it actually is in the night sky. And to tell you the truth, I knew that this thing was close because of its iridescence on the treetops. I could see the glow of it, and I knew that those treetops began across a cornfield, and that cornfield was like halfway up his driveway. So that's how I could kind of determine that this thing is close. And he had told me something about like being out there with a flashlight one night too. And I was just like, I kind of want to see what that's about. And like, ever since then, I feel like you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't practice the hobby of flashing a flashlight at the sky, because like it does have an effect on whatever might be witnessing you. No matter what you think, they can see your little blink on this vast canvas of blackness below them. So you're automatically drawing attention to you, no matter how bright or dim your light is. So just, you know, I think that it's kind of strange that, you know, like from the beginning, I knew that either they were there encountering me, or I just so happened to be running across their path. And it's happened so many times. Again, it gets to be one of those things where I don't want to talk about it in any other format other than something like this, something that you do.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I've been talking about UFOs for years on the show, and I've never met anyone that has seen so many, have had so many encounters. That's pretty incredible. Yeah, and it makes me feel extra thankful that you're here doing that for people to, because, you know, I like to pride myself in being like the best listener, but I'm your biggest skeptic at the same time. If someone's telling me too. Yeah, I try to be very skeptical of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You should come to town the next time that I have a thing here in town where I get people together to share their stories. And
really?
I do it it's just encounters with ghosts, encounters with UFOs.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's so cool. It's so cool to have people come out and just share these pieces of their life, because, you know, it's real to the point of, I think we should have recognized that it is real right off the bat, rather than being told that it wasn't real, than being told that it was real. And then, you know, the implications that go with religion and science based on all that.
Yeah, I actually saw my first UFOs just this last September. I went to up north for a film festival, and I was just chilling outside. I was with my sister, my girlfriend and my brother-in-law, and they don't give two shits about UFOs. I looked up and I saw 6 dots, and they were doing the wildest shit you've ever seen. I actually posted it on our channel, and they even were like, "Holy cow!" And my brother filmed the whole thing, and I spent like you my whole life just looking up, and then finally I saw something that night, and you're right, it just resorted to this like, "Oh, that was weird," you know. But I want to. There's actually this new website called Enigma Labs. They reached out to me, and they're creating this app of the most comprehensive UFO sightings ever created. I could send you the link if you ever want to add any of your experiences on there. But it's dope because it looks like Google Earth, but then like it just has the sightings. You click wherever, it shows the video and the story that pertains to it. Yeah. They actually reached out to me on Reddit. They're like, "Hey, do you want to put your UFO footage or share your story on our app?" I was like, "Hell yeah." So it feels like there's progress finally coming with all of this stuff.
I do think it's funny. If I could add my own bit of satire to the whole recent announcement. So I think I saw a meme that was like the alien or the high-ranking U.S. government officials admit that they have alien biological entities in their possession. And then it shows the next guy in the frame, and it's like, yeah, but have you seen the new Barbie movie? And I always kind of predicted that it would come along on like a Tuesday afternoon, and they would do it in a mundane press conference where it wouldn't pick up very much attraction. But at the same time, I think you and I both kind of knew way before that this was a absolutely real phenomenon, and that no matter how curtained Western societies tried to keep it, the rest of the world has never really, I guess, A, thought any different of coexisting with it, or B, paid too much attention to it. Because that's the truth. I mean, I think once you do pay attention to the fact that there's definitely something extra dimensional happening in our world, that you have to answer a lot of questions to whatever your religion might be, or whatever your scientific mindset as far as physics and just.
But a lot of people don't want to believe it because it's going to break their whole foundation, But do you follow along everything that's going along with Grush and all that?
What's that?
Do you follow along all the stuff that's going along? Like, because UFOs seem bigger than they ever were now, because with the congressional hearings and all that stuff. Do you keep up on all that stuff?
No, I think it's finally coming to a point of where I find it easier to have conversations with family members about it, about my own experiences.
Yeah. Because there's not that stigma anymore.
Yeah, and what's funny is I think I might have even started doing this whole paranormal thing. I've done 5 of them. Every year I do one. I try to do one. I took a break for a while. But I think it was good for me because, like, when I first started doing it, nobody wanted to share a story, and so I had to get up there. I literally had to get up on the open mic and be like, "Hey guys, I saw this and this and this." And one thing I noticed is that, just like during your podcast here, every single time that I tell a story, any of us, any human being, every single time that you tell a story, it becomes less about the event, more and more every time you tell it, and it becomes more about the process of telling that story.
Yeah.
And so what I ask people to do is, like, don't worry about the minor details. Don't worry about your mundane information. And as a host of the show, what I'll do is I'll just, periodically throughout their story, ask them questions that are very skeptical but welcoming. Like, okay, you say that you have a ghost in your house. Is there a good chance that you have bad electrical wiring? Or if you're hearing knocks, do you have like a ventilation problem or a plumbing problem? And knowing in my heart of hearts that it's their Uncle Charlie coming back from the dead to wish them well. And, so you get my point. Like, I'm the biggest believer, but that also makes me an okay skeptic for allowing people to share their stories and allowing these stories, the process of storytelling to be a cathartic thing in dealing with your experience. you know?
Yeah, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that just like to bullshit and make stuff up. So that's what we try to do on the show is try to weed through all the bullshit of the UFO
Yeah.
sightings and you know what I mean. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like you, man. I'm very 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 skeptical. I want to believe it every time, but I start from like not believing it first, and then
Yeah.
trying to get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is pretty credible. This is pretty weird right
All
now.
right.
You know, like
All right.
what?
So I got to get your opinion. Okay.
Okay.
And I was trying to explain to somebody, if you have someone who dresses up in a Bigfoot outfit and stands in the middle of this 60-mile square expanse, and the color of their Bigfoot outfit is exactly matching the background of your surroundings, are you really going to stand out there all day, dehydrated as hell in this Bigfoot suit, just for the opportunity to maybe have a passenger on a train snap a picture of you?
Oh, are you talking about that recent sighting?
Yeah, like what else could that be? And I've thought about it. There is only one other thing I think it could be, and that is an optical illusion. You know what I mean? Like something.
I thought I read an article where that's actually a Bigfoot park, and that train ride's part of the park. And then like they have big people dress up, and then they just release that photo. They released that video acting like it was a sighting. Does that make sense?
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's like
but
actually like it's like a fun park where you go to and you do all that, and people dress up as Bigfoot, and then someone
I
on the
walk
train.
around
So that really is a guy. Yeah, so that really is a guy in a suit. Trust me, because I wanted to believe that too. But from the article I read, it's actually like some park in Colorado, like some Bigfoot, like I don't know, a convention thing or whatever. So
I'm glad
that
you
was a
shared
damn
that.
good sighting. That's a damn good sight. Yeah, we debunked that a few weeks ago actually. 'Cause
Okay.
when I saw that, I was like, holy shit! I hope this is real.
Now I got to ask you something else. When was the first time that you ever saw the infamous alien imagery, almond-shaped eyes, oval or teardrop-shaped head? What was your first experience? Can you remember?
My earliest experience with UFOs and aliens, honestly, is that show Sightings every Friday night.
Yeah,
Back in
yeah,
the day, it
totally.
used to terrify the
Yeah.
fucking shit out of me, and also the
Yep.
movie Fire in the Sky. But I can't
Yep.
remember when the whole big head eye thing, like that just seems like everyone's impression when you think of an alien. But it started with me as for Sightings and that movie Fire in the Sky.
Okay, I think the first time I ever saw it was the infamous cover of Whitley Strieber's Communion, and it was like and they projected that image on Unsolved Mysteries, and I remember seeing it there. And do you remember Time Life books? I don't know how, you're probably a lot younger than me, but Time Life books.
I just turned 43.
Okay, so you remember the Mysteries of the Unknown series that Time Life books out?
Mm-hmm.
Those books were way too heady for a kid to be reading, but like I loved every one of them. You know what I mean? And like I won't say that I wasn't fascinated with that stuff from a very early age, because I was, but again, never had a UFO experience until I was about 19 years old. So, which is fun because like, what's cooler than getting really high and seeing some
for sure
spaceship fly around,
Yeah.
So, and I had, like just like every other angry young man at the time, I was, having questions about religion, having questions about science and everything. So it was kind of cool that like, hey, look at how small I am in this great perspective, So.
Yeah, I just grew up honestly terrified of them because of that damn show Sightings and that movie Fire in the Sky. That actually happened here in Arizona, the Travis Walton case.
Yeah.
But
and you guys also had the Phoenix lights too.
Yeah, I was here for that, but I didn't see that myself. I have friends that witnessed that or whatever. Supposedly that's supposed to be like a flight from Area 51 that went there and back, or there's different theories about the Phoenix lights. But this shit's fun, man. And so back to Sounds of Cyan and Magenta. Is that song title based off of the red and blue lights your friend was seeing, or no?
That's such a great question. No. at the time, we were probably, you know, like making song titles from a less, I guess, poignant perspective. And we wanted to just name all of the chromatic colors. And so we have a song called Yellow, Black, and a song that has the words yellow and black in it. And then we have a song that has cyan and magenta in it. But no, that's a very good question, though. That's really cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah,
just
dawned on me, like maybe that's where the song title came from, but right on, man.
Yeah, I feel like the lyrics on that album, you know, like may just reflect my angry young man perspective at the time. Probably do,
yeah.
like I said, because in between, around about the time of Division of Labor being out is probably around about the same time that I was having these experiences to begin with in my life, you know, and then shortly after that's when Dave left in the early 2000s, and then shortly after that is when The Rescue was written and recorded. So yeah, you won't hear any trauma on that album, but you'll just definitely hear a lot of like
just angst.
Yeah, a lot of inquisitive angst. So that's a good word, angst.
Yeah,
angst, but I wasn't a teen. I was an old man by then.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. The album comes out on the 1st, and then don't you guys have a album release show you guys are doing mid-December?
We do. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I think I have a picture of it.
The band Hopesfall is going to be performing with us, and the band Spirit System is going to be performing with us.
Yeah, so December 15th at the Ramcat in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Nice. That's a sick-ass flyer, dude.
Thanks, man. Love it.
Right on.
I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is amazing. Like I said, you guys have been one of my favorite bands forever, and to find out that you guys have a new song, an album coming out, I'm stoked. My friends are stoked. Do you guys have any plans to tour or coming to Phoenix or anything? Or
I will let you know. I would love to tour. I think we want this album to take us all over the world, so hopefully it will.
Yeah, that's badass. And then do you have any other like plugs or like social medias you wanna say real quick? Or
no, I just want to show you some circuit bending stuff here really quick. You're not doing anything right now. All right, so this hobby that I got into a long time ago, it allows folks like who like to get shocked and things like that to piece together pieces of hardware that do things that they shouldn't. So I just want to show you a couple of those.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is badass.
It uses body contacts right here. I don't know if you can see, but
did you made that?
Like a mic. No, it's originally I think called the Dan Electro Pepperoni pedal, and it was a reverb pedal or something like that. And basically, I just hot rodded it so that you can have body contact touches that will respond with the echo level based on how much your finger is touching it. So it's like,
oh wow.
So you can kind of like freeze it and catch it. You know, okay. And then also
that's cool. Yeah. No, that's really cool. Is there any of that on the new album?
Oh yeah. So we use like anytime that you hear something that's in between, we had a fellow named Jeremy S.H. Griffith that helped us engineer the vocals, and all things vocal on this album have his fingerprint all over them. But one of the cool things that we did was use granular synthesis with my vocals and just catching like little inflections and stretching them to the nth degree. Oh, but nice. Yeah, Jeremy is also a nut for electronics, just like myself, and it was a pleasure to see his gear. He has amazing stuff in his studio and a lot of analog synthesizer things that only he knows how to control, and just sounds like the most beautiful ocean of noises. But yeah, like, and with that in mind, there's also this. I want to see if this works. Just first try it right off the bat here.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah,
it's like picking up like radio frequencies, and then you can kind of like change the notes of it.
No,
that's what it sounds like.
It drops voltage on a little chip, and the chip crashes, and that's what's happening.
Damn,
and then
cool.
you can control the pitch. You can control the pitch of that same way with body contacts, which I love using pieces of brass. Here, you see these pieces of brass?
Oh yeah.
They will control. And you can breathe on your fingers to get like more condensation. And then you can slow it down.
Whoa.
Just based on how much you touch. Yeah, but that's
cool.
Yeah, and I love it. It's like my favorite hobby ever, and I would totally encourage anybody who's got a soldering iron to get out there and break some kids' toys and make a cacophony of circuit bent noise, because it's really cool and really beautiful when people are able to recycle instruments in a way that they might not have otherwise been used.
What's that hobby called?
It's circuit bending. It's just basically, a gentleman by the name of Reed Ghazala. He's like the godfather of it, and I guess origination of it is when he was a kid in the 60s. He had a transistor radio, and he slammed it in the back of his drawer, his junk drawer, and somehow or the other and it made the coolest noise. And from then we began his followers.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. You know, I think he's gotten accolades from, people like Wayne Cohen from Flaming Lips and Trent Reznor, and, all kinds of musicians around the world respect Reed Ghazala because he's the man. He kind of like, he's, I guess what you'd call the godfather of circuit bending. But
dude, if you did that on a YouTube channel or on TikTok or whatever, that shit would blow up, because I bet you there's millions of people into that. You know what I mean? Because I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of that before, and I think that's cool as shit.
Oh, like, man, it's definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's really cool.
Well, yeah, that's like that's something that you can use as a clip there when we talk to people, when you show this podcast later on, say, check out this stuff. He's got some circuit bent gadgets, because they're all over the new record.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, like there's a Casio sampling keyboard that was made by Casio, and I actually ended up giving this my circuit bent Casio SK5 to Jeremy, who recorded the record, because only he could use it that good, but I basically like you could crash the chip for sampling, so that when you're actually recording something to sample and you play it back, it sounds so cool and manipulated and like. But yeah, there's a lot of that. We used to that particular Casio that I circuit bent a couple times on the new record. And anytime that you hear like something that sounds like it is my voice, it's probably something that's done on either that sampling keyboard or actually one of Jeremy's keyboards or something. So
are you allowed to talk about how many songs are on the new album?
10 songs.
10? Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
because the new one's fucking awesome, man. It's so good.
Is that too many songs?
Is 10? No, fuck, I wish it was 30. Fucking it's 10, but 10's perfect, dude. 10 to 12 is like the perfect like album, like
all right. Okay. Give me one of your top 5 favorite albums of all time, just off the top of your head. Like
top
not
5 favorite albums
of every musician.
Far Water and Solutions is up there.
Good. All right. Is Failure's Fantastic Planet? It's not on your list.
Fantastic, Failure is for sure. Fantastic Planet.
Yeah.
that's an all-timer right there.
Yeah.
Um, Dead Sea, not their album that they released. They had a 7-song like demo that they came out with that I'm absolutely in love with. I don't know if you ever heard of
Mhm.
Oh, you play with Dead
Yeah.
Sea, duh.
Yeah.
Also Dredge, that's a kind of a toss-up between like El Cielo and Catch Without Arms. I kind of go back and forth. Any Dredge album, honestly. And then for heavy shit, it's got to either be Chaos AD, because that was like the album that just blew me away as
Yeah.
far as like that came out in 92 and those fucking riffs still hold up to this day. And bands
Yeah.
still like, use those kinds of riffs and shit. And also probably
Biotech Godzilla.
Will
That was
Haven.
like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Will
Haven,
great.
what the fuck is El Diablo? I fucking love Will Haven, dude. There's something in it, like the water in Sacramento, that there's just so many good bands that come from there, from like Far
Yeah.
to Will Haven to Deftones, like so. But yeah, man. What about your top 5 favorite albums?
Oh man. Well, I think I think about like the chunk that you get when you get an album, and it's so difficult. I'd have to say, like Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love, maybe some Motown stuff. Black Sabbath, We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. I'm really into a lot of the ambient stuff that the Melvins do. Melvins are probably one of my favorite bands.
Oh, that's cool.
Not ambient, but just the balls out, 8 or 9 minute long songs that Melvins can do.
Yeah.
And I like, as far as like the number of songs on an album, Radiohead's Hail to the Thief is probably like,
there's a couple Radiohead albums.
They've got like 15 songs on that album, and I was just like, that's a cool amount of songs. And I think there's about 15 on Fantastic Planet, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, they have like a lot of good like segues or whatever in between the tracks that are really cool,
Yeah. Maybe next time we'll shoot for 12 or 13 for you on the next one.
Well, you know what, man? It's like nowadays, like I almost feel sorry for kids growing up with music, because they experience it completely different than us. As far as like when back in the day, you get an album, it was all about not just the music, but the artwork, opening it up, seeing who they thanked, in the credits and the lyrics. And now kids don't have that physicality of music. You know what I mean? It's just like streams and singles and stuff. So I feel like that's kind of lost in music these days. But when I get a new album, I'm going to listen to it from the first song all the way to 10, probably every day for the next year, I'm sure.
There's a very tactile experience of getting up to flip the record over,
Yes.
And
yes.
There's a very palpable feeling of smelling
the smell,
or smelling vinyl inlay or something,
or just even taking the shrink wrap off is
yeah. You don't want to lose that. Like, I know that the ways and means of getting music nowadays has changed dramatically. I feel sorry for anybody that doesn't kind of know that you have to have this very visceral experience with a piece of media in order to geek out. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just one of you're just kind of a consumer. You're a one for one rather than a one for all kind of music lover. And it's so funny because I can always tell, like, if I'm ever going to strongly dislike somebody, it's when I ask them, hey, what kind of music do you like? And they're just like, oh, I don't listen to music. I'm like,
those people don't have souls. I know people like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Do you just not have a soul? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And it's weird because, like, my job, the place where I work, I have to be the front face of the building and the production staff, and it's so cool because, like, it's always the old timers that know, like, how to truly put on an amazing show, and like it's so rewarding, from a perspective of I'm not a rock star quite yet. You know what I mean? Like somebody that, you know, you'd never expect to be like kind of blown away by. Like, I'm not sure if you know Gillian Welch. She's a
Oh, I don't think
American
so.
folk singer. She's an American folk singer, and she had some vocal songs on the movie Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Oh, I love that
And
movie. Coen
yeah, okay,
brothers.
she did some of the music on that, and
Oh, nice.
her voice is just, to me, her voice is just like absolutely. And when I got a chance to be the artist relations for the club when she came through, dude, she needed, the only thing that she needed was herself and that guitar, and her friend Dave, who co-writes songs with her, was there to operate as the auxiliary musician and the sound guy.
Mhm.
And they had a murder person, and as I recall, that was all their touring entourage was, is
Oh,
just the,
wow.
yeah. And I'm like, man, and it was one of the most moving shows that I've ever been to. So yeah, I don't even know where we're going with that whole thing. I'm just saying, you know, like when you can have it streamlined, so that's all you need for your touring entourage. Yeah, that's really
Yeah, that
cool.
makes it. Yeah, do you guys was there a conscious effort of the song order of the new album, or does that not matter? Like, do you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
like, talk about, like, "Yeah, we want this song first and this song second
yeah,
and this," you know?
yeah. We wanted to space things out as far as like the proper energies of an album. Like, you know, like we did take a lot of time of thinking, okay, this is the end of side A. We took a lot of time thinking about like, okay, so even though this is the end of side A, it kind of, you know, it varies from media format to media format. So it still needs to be a fluid album. So yeah, there were a lot of songs in the middle that were the earlier songs that we had written. So I don't know if that is us thinking too much about it, but like the final things that were written on the album kind of bookend the album. So
Well, like I said, when I listen to an album, it's like an experience that you from the first song to the end, so I feel like the song order is important, so I do like when bands take that into consideration. I
yeah,
feel like most bands do, you know?
yeah. I can only imagine, like there's so many albums that I'm so used to listening to, like um uh I guess it's Communication Break in Led Zeppelin
Oh,
Communication
Led
Breakdown
Zeppelin, yeah.
into Live and Love and Made, you know, that second song that kind of comes in,
Mhm.
or like We Are the Champions right after We Will Rock You. Those are two separate song entities, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? But
Yep, yep.
they really
But they
cool.
go
Yeah.
together, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know what you mean. So, are you excited for all of this stuff to come out, or do you get nervous about it, or like where's your head at right now?
I was nervous talking to you, man, like, but I found out that about 10 seconds in that you're a hell of a guy. So
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Well, I really appreciate
um
you taking the time to come on the show and opening up with the UFO stories, talking about the band. I feel like online there's different kind of biographies, about you guys. So I think it's cool that you talked about the past too and stuff. So,
yeah.
um, I don't know if you want to just, like I said, just say some plugs or whatever like that, and then we could get some rapid fire questions for the members only.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Equal Vision Records and thank you to our families. And we can't wait for all fans of the band Codeseven to hear it and breathe it in.
Sweet. Hell yeah, man. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. If you're ever in Phoenix, you're always welcome to do one in studio, or I can come down wherever you guys are playing. We could do another interview or whatever. I'm definitely going to come to your show if you guys come here and stuff. So I just want to say
Cool.
good luck on everything with the new album. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this episode with Jeff Jenkins. And we will see you next week. Peace out.